Want to know which ships you can really save your money on in Star Citizen right now? Which ones you can board and take off in, but have no use for? Which ships have significantly better or cheaper competitors? Then you've come to the right place. In this guide, we take a detailed look at the negative top 20 ships that, in our opinion, simply don't make sense in the current Star Citizen or offer good value for your hard-earned money or aUEC. In the last video, we already looked at the bright side, the 20 best ships available for purchase in-game, i.e. real workhorses that you can use to efficiently earn money, complete missions, or simply have fun today. We're turning the coin over and looking at the dark side of the verse. The ships that sound cool on paper and may look great in the hangar, but in practice either don't offer any gameplay yet, have been completely replaced by other ships, or simply miss the current meta mercilessly. Important to note, one of Star Citizen's greatest strengths is that it offers countless different ships, each with their own advantages and disadvantages, each with their own fans, and each a true revelation for a very specific type of player. So, if you enjoy playing with one of these candidates, then this ship is the right one for you. We take a pragmatic and uncompromising look at the current ship lineup. What do you get for your money? What can you currently do with it in the verse? And what alternatives are there that are objectively better? It's also important to note that Star Citizen is constantly changing. Balancing changes, new game mechanics, or revised roles could suddenly turn some of these ships from slow sellers into insider tips in the future. And some ships on this list are already doing just that, because as soon as CIG tweaks a few things, things will get exciting. Let's go. We'll start with our negative top 20 and begin with number 20. In 20th place is Argo CSV-SM, the construction support vehicle. On paper, it's a small, sturdy cargo truck with 4 SCUS on the open loading area. However, at around $45 in the pledge store and currently around 378,000 UEC in-game, it's a pretty expensive shopping cart. The problem lies less with the idea and more with the gameplay. Everything the CSV-SM is supposed to be able to do can currently be done faster with a tractor beam or directly with a ship. Theoretically, you can use it if you're traveling long distances on foot or want to haul a lot of loot from an outpost. But thanks to the revamped tractor beams, you can just take a 1 SQ crate with you, and it will obediently follow you everywhere. The only option for the CSV would be to secure valuable cargo from large facilities later on. In 19th place, we have the Fury MX from Mirai, the bomber variant of the Fury series. For around $55 and about 727,650 UEC in-game, it sounds like a nifty little rocket snub that should pack a punch. In reality, however, it is a very limited tool that fails in one key area. It has no quantum drive. This means that you can't get to the scene quickly or leave elegantly on your own with the Fury MX. You always have to have it parked somewhere, launch it from a hangar, or call it up on a pad, so it relies on a carrier ship or suitable infrastructure. But if we already have a ship with a hangar and are traveling together, we want to make good use of that hangar space. And that's where a Sabre Firebird is simply the better choice. More missiles and, thanks to its quantum drive, it can also be used solo, which fits perfectly with the hit-and-run principle. Fire all your missiles, activate quantum, and disappear again. The Fury MX, on the other hand, is dependent on its mothership and relies solely on its limited missiles without the flexibility of a full-fledged fighter. In 18th place on the negative list is the Intrepid from Crusader Industries. Visually, it's an absolute dream. One of the most beautiful entry-level ships ever, with a great cockpit and an interior that makes you feel right at home. It costs around $65 in the pledge store and currently around 700,000 UEC in the verse, so it's anything but a cheap starter ship. The problem is that behind the beautiful facade, there is unfortunately little substance. The 8 SCU cargo is distributed across 2 poorly usable lifts, which makes loading with standard crates unnecessarily fiddly and almost renders the cargo hold useless in practice. The armament and components are below average for the price. And this is where it gets critical for us. For significantly less money, you can get a Cutter, a Mustang, or an Aurora starter ship, which are significantly cheaper and in some cases even more powerful. And in the Intrepid's price range, there are much more attractive candidates that are larger and more versatile, most notably an Avenger Titan. The bottom line is that the Intrepid is a beautiful showpiece with a great atmosphere, but weak cargo solutions and poor performance for a price tag that is far too expensive. In 17th place, we have the Drake Herald, a ship that has been around forever but still has virtually no practical use today. For around $85 in pledges and about 1,285,200 UEC in-game, you get an extremely fast data runner that was built for one purpose only: to transport data from A to B quickly, securely, and if necessary, cleanly erasable. The Herald's entire silhouette screams speed, a huge engine at the rear, a small functional interior with server racks and a compact cockpit in front. Armament, rather rudimentary. Cargo capacity, non-existent. It's one of the fastest ships in the game, but currently you're basically just racing through the verse pointlessly because the actual data-running gameplay is simply missing. And that's what sets it apart from the Intrepid. The Intrepid is beautiful but conceptually weak. The Herald would actually be a powerful specialized tool, but at the moment it's just missing the right gameplay. Currently, a collector's item with no real purpose, but as soon as data running really comes into play, it should quickly go from being a slow seller to a highly specialized insider tip. If you already have it in your hangar, you should leave it there. 16th place is shared by the MISC-reliant Sen and the MISC-reliant Mako, two sister ships that sound super exciting on paper, but don't play any role in practice yet. The Sen is intended to be a small science platform, while the Mako is a flying news van. Both look great, both have their charm, and both cost a pretty penny at $85 and $95, respectively. The problem is that since their release a few years ago, they simply lack the right gameplay. The Sen has a science station that does nothing useful. No samples, no data analysis, no loop that earns you credits. The Mako has a camera that takes pretty exterior shots, but without broadcast mechanics. It's all just a gimmick. For you, that means you're paying mainly for the idea and the look, not for real utility. In 15th place is the Origin 350R, the elegant racing version of the 300 series. It's fast, beautiful, and even luxurious, as it's the only racer with a proper interior, including a bed. Sounds classy, but that's exactly its problem. The 350R is large, cumbersome for real racing, and pays a lot for comfort that you don't need on the track. For $125 in pledges and around 3.7 million UEC in-game, you get an XXL racer that is outperformed in its specialty by specialized lightweights such as the Razor or M50. And for all other activities, there are cheaper ships that perform better. In 14th place is the Argo Astronautics SRV, the standard recovery vehicle. On paper, it's the tow truck of the verse, but in reality, it's way ahead of the gameplay. Yes, the tractor beam works, and yes, you can move ships. But there's practically no reason to do so. It doesn't currently give you any advantage in missions, and real towing jobs don't exist. At best, you might pull a wreck out of a restricted zone, so it can be dismantled more easily. Nice, but rarely worth the effort. For $165 in pledges and around 3.9 million UEC in-game, that's a lot of capital for maybe later. That's exactly where the glimmer of hope lies. As soon as there are fixed 2 contracts, rewards for clearing landing zones, or logistics loops, the SRV can very quickly go from being a slow seller to a specialized tool. In 13th place is the Hornet Mark 1 series, except for the F7A Mark 1, which remains extremely powerful and even rarer. Historically, the M1 was the epitome of the medium fighter, robust, modular, iconic. Depending on the variant, F7C, Ghost, Tracker, Super Hornet, the price ranges roughly between $125 to $180 and around 3 to 5 million in-game. That seems fair until you compare it to reality. The Mark II performs measurably better in every role. More efficient propulsion, better component performance, modernized hardpoints, stronger shields in some cases, and noticeably, refined handling. The bottom line is more combat value per credit invested. The Mk1, on the other hand, suffers from its legacy DNA, larger cross-section, lower agility, less range at the limit, older system layouts. The old-school variants are charming, but the Mk2 counterparts go one better in every respect. For the same mission profile, the Mk2 series simply gives you more ship without paying noticeably more. Our conclusion? Collector's item, yes. Purchase recommendation, no. In 12th place is the Aegis Sabre Peregrine, visually inspired by the legendary Sabre Raven, built for one thing only: sprinting forward. For $185 in pledges and around 4.05 million in-game, you get a racer that thrills on the straights, but struggles on every track. Too big, not agile enough, and outside of the racing context, it simply lacks a purpose, no weapons, no other use. Essentially, a cockpit-only speedster. Compared to specialized lightweights that shine in corners, you're paying a lot for show and straight-line speed here, but hardly anything for lap times. If Star Citizen ever gets drag racing with long straights, the Peregrine will be flying right at the front. Until then, it remains a very expensive collector's item for sprint fans. In 11th place is the Scorpius Antares, and yes, the normal Scorpius was in our top recommendations as a powerful dual-seater. The Antares, on the other hand, takes the fun out of the second seat. Instead of a turret, there's e-warfare, and the co-pilot presses 2 buttons every 30 seconds when in doubt. In practice, this is one of the most boring crew experiences in the game, so for $230 you get less combat value and hardly any added value for team play, especially since other e-warfare platforms such as the Sentinel, the Mantis, or even the upcoming Zeus MERR offer many functions directly for the pilot. If you want a Scorpius, go for the basic version. If you want e-warfare, there are much better tools out there. In 10th place is the Origin 400i, and yes, that hurts me personally. Visually, it's a stunner, an elegant long-range explorer with a gorgeous interior and a small bike garage as its unique selling point. For $250 in the pledge and just under 11.5 million in-game, it sounds like upscale premium class. The problem in its league, it faces the Corsair and the Constellation family. And the bottom line is that they deliver more in almost every discipline: more firepower, more versatility, better mission efficiency. Unless you explicitly want to take the bike with you and are completely taken with the look, as I am, you're paying a lot for style and comparatively little for performance here. In 9th place is Crusader's Mercury Star Runner, and yes, we love its look. This is Star Citizen's Millennium Falcon moment. Hidden smuggler tunnels, a grandiose layout, its own scanner station, everything screams for this iconic blockade runner. For $260 in the pledge and just under 6 million aUEC in-game, it sounds like an enticing package. But it also lacks any relevant gameplay loop for which it was built. Neither data running nor real smuggling or advanced scanner gameplay are usable. Add to that a cargo hold that is no longer state-of-the-art when it comes to loading and unloading, and weaponry that leaves it lagging behind its direct competitors in everyday use. The bottom line is that the Mercury ends up being used far too often as a vehicle taxi, and it's simply too expensive for that. With the appropriate loops, however, it will quickly shine brightly. Until then, it's a beautiful ship, but currently an emotional decision, not an efficient one. In 8th place is the Asperia Prowler utility. Beautiful alien design, fantastic animations, and that Teverin vibe. On paper, it's a sleek freighter, but in practice, it's an expensive style icon with no substance, only 32 SCU less than some entry-level ships, and the basic Prowler's armament has also been toned down, meaning it offers little backbone as a transporter and still costs just under $300. Yes, it comes with a ship tractor beam, but you simply get much more in the same price range and far below with alternatives. More cargo, more utility, more protection. A Constellation variant gives you better value for money in almost every scenario today. In the end, you're mainly paying for looks and alien flair here, not for real utility. In 7th place is the Starfarer series, the Starfarer and Starfarer Gemini. On paper, these are the tankers of the verse. Huge fuel tanks, their own refinery, lots of technology. But in practice, they are one thing above all else: outdated and without a real purpose. The interior is a labyrinth that urgently needs the long-planned rework. And the core problem remains: there is no gameplay compulsion to refuel, hardly any situations where you are really needed as a mobile gas station, and no meaningful conclusions such as NPC refueling orders. For your wallet, that means $300 for the Starfarer, or $340 for the Gemini. In-game, that's just under 15 million. A lot of capital for a maybe later. Now for the positive. If the refinery and refueling gameplay really takes off, the series will very quickly go from being a slow seller to a specialized tool. The ability to process fuel and supply fleets in the field is fundamentally unique. If the loops are there, the emphasis is on if. In 6th place is the Aegis Redeemer, once the hottest gunship in the verse, now sadly a shadow of its former glory. For around $330 and just under 8 million in-game, you get an iconic player-designed ship with distinctive engine nacelles that originally took down everything in the sky with a crew of 3. The current reality: after several balance passes, the turrets have been significantly weakened, and as a 2 to 3 player platform, the Redeemer no longer really cuts it. You're carrying a lot of mass, you need coordination, and you're outperformed by more modern gunships, even with just 2 people. The Paladin has more firepower and feels more agile, while the Redeemer too often leaves you on the defensive. Our conclusion: great history, beautiful silhouette, but currently not competitive. Not the smart choice for either a duo or a team of 3. In 5th place is the Constellation Phoenix, the luxury version of the Connie family, beautifully furnished, built for VIP transport and stylish travel. It sounds tempting, but that's exactly the crux of the matter. There are no VIP contracts, no passenger transport loops, and for the high price of $350, the Phoenix also lacks the strengths of the series, above all, a truly practical cargo hold. The bottom line is that you pay a lot for ambiance, but get less utility than with its sister models. If you want a constellation, the Taurus or Andromeda currently offer significantly more value for money, from everyday cargo to mission flexibility. Once VIP gameplay arrives, we'll talk again. Until then, the Phoenix is a dream for the eyes, but a tough decision for the wallet. In fourth place is the Valkyrie, an iconic dropship that still gives you goosebumps when you see it. But for around $375, what you're really getting is nostalgia, its original concept. Lots of seats, plenty of room for troops, dates back to a time when dropships were all the rage. Today, flexibility and utility are what count, and that's exactly where the Valkyrie is overshadowed by more modern designs. The Asgard is cheaper, carries more cargo and vehicles, offers more firepower, and still has room for friends. The Paladin, on the other hand, beats it in almost every discipline as a combat-focused platform. Add to that the outdated interior layout, large but not very practical for everyday use. The bottom line is that it remains too expensive and too poorly equipped for what it does. And a quick heads up for owners of the Valkyrie Liberator Edition. This year's IAE paints for the Asgard are very reminiscent of this exclusive skin. The Valkyrie is still beautiful, but unfortunately only to the eye. In third place is the Aegis Hammerhead, once a symbol of large ships in the verse. For around $725 and currently around $48 million, you get a subcapital with 6-man turrets and a grand appearance, but also a huge catch. Without at least 7 people on board, pilot plus 6 gunners, you can't exploit its full potential. The Hammerhead doesn't offer enough value for the crew size required in everyday use. Compared to real heavyweights like Polaris, Idris, or soon Perseus, it lacks damage, durability under focused fire, and above all, gameplay utility beyond the theory of fighter defense in a fleet formation. However, these fleet and escort scenarios are hardly relevant. What's more, take the same 6 players and put them in 3 paladins. You'll have more firepower, more flexibility, and less downtime. In short, the Hammerhead is impressive when an organization uses it as a backdrop. For you and your friends in a small team, it's currently an expensive crew trap. High personnel requirements, low mission yield, and little fun for those who aren't currently operating a turret-nice ship. Wrong timing. In second place is Crusader's A2 Hercules, the mother of all bombs carrier in the verse. For $750, you get an impressive bomber battleship that can wipe out entire outposts on the ground. The problem, this gameplay is, to put it mildly, a marginal phenomenon. Drops are rarely worthwhile, missions don't require them, and outside of niche scenarios, primarily griefing, the A2 offers little added value. For a dedicated bomber, we recommend the significantly cheaper A1 with size 5 bombs and a very similar effect, at a much lower cost. Should base building, fortress missions, or systematic ground target elimination ever become a thing, the A2 will immediately become the king of its niche. Until then, it is one thing above all else, a very expensive bet on tomorrow that you can save yourself today. In first place is the 890 Jump, Origin's interstellar super yacht, probably the best-known flagship for Star Citizen even outside the verse. It impresses in every detail: luxury spa and pool, elegant suites, a bridge straight out of a sci-fi movie, and even a hangar with a basketball hoop. Pure showmanship, and that's exactly where the problem lies. Luxury gameplay is still lacking. There are no VIP transports, no dedicated luxury loop that somehow plays to its strengths. It's not made for combat. The 388S CU cargo hold is cumbersome in everyday use, and it's simply too big to be a utility platform. Priced at $950 or $65 million in-game, it is extremely expensive. This leaves the 890 Jump as the largest and at the same time most useless ship in the verse, a breathtaking stage without a play. When VIP, luxury, or event missions eventually arrive, we'll talk again. Until then, it's a dream for the eyes and a nightmare for the price-performance heart. Now it's your turn. Which ships are on your personal negative list, and which ones would you defend to the death? Tell us in the comments below why a useless ship shines for you or which dud we've criminally overlooked. Feel free to jump into our Discord for builds, tests, and org runs. Check out our daily Twitch live streams. And if you liked it, leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell, or you'll miss the next test and counter video. We read everything and pick the best arguments for the next format. Until then, thanks for watching. See you in the verse.